There are some people who oppose recurring villains being a thing in Dragon Ball, and one of the points they often make is that the more a villain is used, the less impressive they appear. This has been cited by some people who are sick of Frieza and believe he is no longer as threatening of an antagonist as he was during the Frieza saga in Z. While I can understand this mindset, I think there's a gray area when you don't consider that initial appearance to have been all that impressive. I'm referring, of course, to Goku Black, who I think should return both because I think he was handled poorly during the Future Trunks saga of Super, and because I think they can do more with his character. I did a video explaining why he was wasted a few months back, but this is different as I'm going to give my reasons for wanting him to show up again. I think Goku Black was handled poorly for a variety of reasons. One of these reasons is that out of all 5 main antagonists in Super, Beerus, Frieza, Hit, Goku Black, and Jiren, Goku Black is the only one to not be the final villain of his arc as antagonist. Whether it was King Piccolo, Vegeta, Frieza, Cell, or Buu, main antagonists always were the final battle in their arc. Goku Black broke this trend and was cast aside for a fusion that came in the last 20% of the story. This makes it to where, when I watch the Future Trunks saga, I retroactively have a harder time taking Black seriously as the main villain when I know that he's going to be removed from the story before it's even over. Another reason I think he was handled poorly was the lack of clarity offered for much of his character. We know that he killed Goku, Goten, and Chi-Chi in his timeline, but we don't know what he did or if he did anything to Gohan or the other characters in that timeline. Super Saiyan Rose was introduced with no build-up, and his scythe attack comes out of nowhere. If we saw Black a second time, he could explain more about his past and powers in bragging about both, a trait of confidence that he was shown to have in the Future Trunks saga. And finally, I really despise the choices they made for Black's character interactions. Black killed versions of Goten and Chi-Chi, but we're never shown the two reacting to this or even getting the chance to meet him. Combatants, characters that fight like Gohan, Piccolo, Krillin, and 18, they're all in that arc, but never directly interact with Black. If he's not talking to Goku, Vegeta, Future Trunks, or his butt buddy Zamasu, Black is attacking nameless members of the Resistance in the alternate timeline that Trunks is from. One of the reasons I got as hyped as I did when he first showed up was that I thought after he fought Goku, we would see Black interact with other members of the cast, such as Krillin and Piccolo, who were both introduced early in the arc. Instead, we see him fight the same 3 characters over and over again, while the rest of the cast sits in the present timeline, apparently not concerned enough about him as a threat to get involved or train. But this goes back to why I want a second Goku Black arc, because they can change his area of operations from Future Trunks' timeline to the main one. And if they don't repeat the same mistake of having Beerus and Whis hovering around like in Resurrection F, Black can be written to be very threatening to the main cast. Remember, Goku Black has instant transmission, meaning that he can go around destroying entire cities in minutes, blowing them to pieces and executing the Zero Mortals plan in the present timeline. Imagine a race against time where the characters have to train and come up with strategies against Black while he's constantly obliterating entire continents. He'd be a slower, more intelligent version of Kid Buu who could relish in the torture he's providing the main cast. Oh my god, I just realized they could give Black a goal of wanting to drain the earth of life as to purge it from the sin of manhood. I'm not going to dub myself some original storyteller, but I can't think of a Dragon Ball villain who wanted to kill Earthlings but preserve the planet. They usually just try to do both. A few years back, before the Broly movie was announced, there was a user who was opposed to Cell coming back, and one of the things he asked me while being opposed to this idea was, who's going to bring back Cell? I was very annoyed by this because if there's one thing that Dragon Ball has never had a problem doing, it's making a quick explanation for something. Why do the androids hate Goku? Oh, they were made by former Red Ribbon Army member Dr. Gero, who we never saw during the Red Ribbon Army saga but has been recording Goku to learn his moves since then. Who's going to bring back Frieza? Oh, his minions that we had no reason to believe were still aligned with him after his death, as there was no mention of them at all between the Cell Saga and the Battle of Gods film. Whenever someone asks you who's going to bring a Dragon Ball villain back, they either are concerned trolling where they pretend to be worrying of something, or they don't have any imagination. But since I'm feeling generous, I'll hold this person's hand. Who can bring Goku Black back? Maybe they can have an alternate version of Zamasu learn about Goku Black's existence, be impressed with what the alternate version of himself accomplished, and resurrect him and future Zamasu with the Super Dragon Balls, which is something we know can override Zeno's erasing as demonstrated by the end of the Tournament of Power. Or if future Trunks ever gets his timeline back from a wish by the Super Dragon Balls, maybe they can reveal that Black and Zamasu are no longer fused and are in hiding plotting their revenge. There's many different ways this can be done, and it's very sad that I have to hold people's hands for these possibilities to even come to mind. I'm not some brilliant writer. I'm just a person that watches the series, remembers what it showed me, and comes up with ideas based off of what the show presented. This is literally a show where you can bring back entire galaxies with a wish from a dragon, and people want to tell me about what can and can't be done. So there are those that argue that using a villain repeatedly diminishes them as a threat. I think Goku Black was already diminished in his entirety by the midpoint of his Soul arc, and that using him a second time in the way I've briefly touched on here would be enhancing him in terms of memorability and effectiveness as an antagonist. I'm entirely willing to write a full version of this arc, the second Goku Black arc. If anyone is interested, let me know. I think using Black in a way that gives him more interactions with the main cast, presents him as a threat to their timeline, and expands on both his backstory and powers, is enough of a difference to warrant him being returned to the series.